Good morning and welcome to CIS 2400. Today is Wednesday, 9:16. I hope you guys are doing well. You are continuing to observe the social distancing, wearing your mask, washing your hands, and most importantly, staying safe. So today's agenda is I will go through the assignment from last week. I'll briefly talk about the assignment for this week, and then I will briefly go through the course content. So a few things I observed when you're making the voice thread. Now, I understand that most of you, or maybe some of you, don't really like being on camera, but I'm sorry, but that's how things are now. So in one way or another, you're going to be on camera, whether you're doing your job interview or when you're communicating, when you're working in a group. So by us using the voice thread, we are hoping that at least you'll be able to pick some of those techniques for making presentations. And what I observed is some of you do these things subconsciously, like you like to touch yourself, touch your face, sometimes move around. So what I can encourage you to do is practice. When you're in front of the camera, please try to make sure that you keep your hands together. There's nothing wrong with gesturing, but make sure that you're keeping your hands away from your face. Don't be playing with your hair, with your eyes, or things like that. One of the ways that you can actually practice public speaking is use a mirror. Just go to the bathroom, and I've mentioned that before, pick a topic and observe yourself talking, or you can have somebody else observe you talking, because communication is very, very important. When you look at the skills that employers are looking for, communication always comes on top. And if you're a good communicator, that will help you when you're applying for a job and even when it comes time for promotion, because people who are good speakers, they are articulate and they can talk about the company's business and things like that. So make sure that at least you are trying to improve your communication. The other point I mentioned before, I think most of you did very well, but when you are interacting online, make sure that you're presentable. I think I had some people who, I think maybe one or two guys who came without a shirt. I don't think you want to do that when you're doing online stuff. So let's observe that etiquette. The other point is you got to practice. So before you go in front of the camera, you need to practice. And this is the same thing that you have to do when you're preparing for a job interview. You have to practice. So I was a little bit disappointed by some of the answers that some of you gave, because I went through the assignment and I will briefly share with you the slide that has the questions that I was asking you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, perfect. So I'm trying to share something here with you, and this is going to be, I think, is a tab, reading disruptive technology. Maybe it's right there. Share that. Is that it? Maybe not. Sure, is the other one. Just give me 1 minute, and I'm sorry, I keep going back and forth. Chrome tab. It's the reading more. My bad. Reading more. Yeah, my tabs all look the same. So I'm sorry, it takes a little bit of time to grab the one I want to share. Okay, so perfect. So I hope you can see that. So this is where the question came from. And we were asking you to tell us which one you think is more important, the customer facing processes or the business facing processes. And some of you, the answers that you're giving, they had nothing to do with these things. So anytime that we ask you a question, we are not going to be throwing questions out there and we don't give you some hints. So I went through the presentation last week and I mentioned about this and I gave you some ideas. So when you're talking about something like the order processing, that is a customer facing process. And I was asking you, can you tell me why is this important? So one of the points that you could have mentioned is when you are going through the order processing, that is how businesses are able to meet their objective. So if you go to Amazon and you order something, that is how Amazon makes money, by making sure that they fulfill that order. If that customer is happy, they might come back, maybe buy something else. Customer service, that is very, very important. So you tell me, some of you say something like a waiter and things like that, but also I wanted you to go a little bit deeper. Tell me, why is customer service important? What can happen to a business if the customer service is not very, very good? Same thing with customer billing. Okay, why is that important? When you're buying something and an organization has to bill you, that's how they get their money. That's how they're able to know which customers are able to make the payments. And then from there, they can actually be able to sell you more items, what's called cross-selling. Order shipping, same thing. If a business says that they're going to be shipping your product in 4 days and it doesn't get there in 4 days, that can be a problem to the business. Okay, so some of you gave me some examples and they were okay, but I need you to go a little bit more deeper. So, like I said, there is no right or wrong answer in this kind of response. When you look at something like strategic planning, that is long term. So, when a company is planning for long term, that is also very important for the business, because when they plan for the long term, that will determine the survival of that organization. Okay, so you when you ask a question like this, at least explain a little bit about what is order processing, and then take an example of a business and then relate that. And when you talk about this, it's kind of like a debate. When somebody gives you a question and you're debating, this is very similar to a job interview, because somebody will ask you, what is information system, when you go for a job interview. So if you have practiced doing this, it's going to be a little bit much easier for you to do that. So remember that. The question for this week on the discussion, we're not going to be going back to VoiceThread for this week, but we'll go back in the coming weeks. So this week we'll go to the regular discussion board where you just type the information, then you have to go back and comment. And the question is asking you to talk about knowledge management. So knowledge management, one way that you can answer that question is walk me through, tell me what is knowledge first of all, and then what is knowledge management. So we have mentioned about what we call the data. Okay, data, bits, zeros and ones. When you go to a store and you buy something, they ask you for your what? For your maybe zip code, or if you have the bonus card, they swipe that. So that point, they collect your data. What you bought, what time you bought it. For one customer, that is data. At the end of the day, they'll have collected data for maybe 100 customers. So they can go back and now analyze that data. So when they analyze that, when they process that data, they convert it into information. Because when they have the data from 100 customers and they analyze that data, they can say, okay, 100 customers, 45% of them are female, the other group they are male, and then they can go ahead and look at the age, they can look at the things that you're buying, what time did you buy, and on like that. So now there they have what? They have information. So you have data, convert that data into what? Into information. And then from the information, you have what you're calling the knowledge. Because now you can look at that information and now you can make some informed decision. And you can say, okay, those customers who come in the morning, they usually buy milk and bread, for instance. And those customers who come in the afternoon, they buy vegetables. What kind of vegetables? They buy bananas and what? And apples. Now that's what you're calling knowledge, because now with that knowledge, you'll be able to know how you can structure your organization. You can also be able to see that most of your customers, maybe they come to the store between what? 11 and 12. What does that mean? If you're the store manager, then you're going to be able to know how you're going to staff. How many people do you need to be working during that period? So that's what you're calling information. So you have your data, you process that data, you get information. From information, you proceed to what? To what we are calling knowledge. Now, how are you able to do that? Because you're using information system. Okay, so now we're talking about management information system. So the concept of management comes in because we have information system. What is that? The computers, the hardware, the software, and the people who are working there, and the procedures. That's the information system. And now we're using that to help us manage our organization. So based on that, how do companies manage, make use of knowledge management? How do they make use of knowledge management? So when you're answering that question, you can use an example like the one I gave, and then give me a little bit more information. And some of the information that you can tell me is like in terms of knowledge management. So if you are the store manager and you know that most of your customers are coming to the store between 11 and 12, that is going to determine how many employees you can have working in the store. Okay. Now, how do you use that information? How do you use that knowledge? Okay, how can you use that knowledge? One of the that you can do that is actually you can quantify that knowledge. Quantify means what? You have it written down. You can have it written down. And then you'll be able to know, okay, on Monday, this is the time that most of the customers come in. On Tuesday, like that, and on like that. So when you are making your planning, you can go back to what you're calling the database or a repository of the knowledge, and you can look, and from there you'll be able to determine how you're going to be doing your staffing. Also, in terms of the supplies, how often do you need to be able to know to order products for your store? Okay, if you have somebody who is supplying you with eggs, with bread, with milk, how often do they need to be doing that? What is a good time for you to be restocking the shelf? Because you want to make sure that you're restocking the shelf when there are not very many customers in the store, and on like that. So that's part of what you're calling knowledge management. So that will be the topic for discussion week. Now, note, I've mentioned that when you are commenting on your colleagues' discussion post, don't just say, I agree with what you said. No, you have to add more. In the past, I've been very lenient. When people say, I agree with what you're saying, I've just been looking on the side. Moving forward, we are not going to be accepting that. We need you to make what's called substantive contribution. Okay, so read something, read somebody's post, and then say, hey, Mike, I like that you mentioned about company XYZ doing A, B, C, D. I agree with that because. Okay, so we want you to make sure that you're contributing to the discussion, and this is for your own good, because when you get out there and there are people who are meeting in a table and you're talking about a project and somebody asks you, what do you think about that? You can just say, I agree with what she said. That's not going to move you up the ladder. You need to make sure that you're adding to the debate, you're adding to the conversation, you're adding value to that process. So that's one thing that you need to do. Make sure that you read, and then make sure that you are adding value to the conversation. Okay, so far so good?
Yes.
Okay, very good. One more item is I will talk about the assignment also from last week. And I also went through the video and I was very clear on what I expected you to do. And I was a little bit disappointed. And if you look at your grades, most of you maybe lost points. And the reason why you lost points is because you did not watch the video from the class. So this was the assignment from last week. Most of you were, I think, so for the ones who were in class, I think there were a few students who actually did it very well, but some of you had problems. So I said at the beginning, you have this worksheet. This is from CIS 1100, and you have, there's a workbook. You have this worksheet AYK that shows you the different colors here and what they mean, and then you have the data. So this is what you're calling the data, raw values. And then you have what? The answer sheet. Okay, so it has already been summarized for you. So all what you have to do is populate this with the total and populate with this with what? With the average. I say because we have two sheets that we need to populate data with, the first thing that you need to do is you need to make a copy of the tracking donations. And I remember going through the presentation and asking some of the students, how can you make a copy of this? Okay, somebody said right click and then go to what? Move all copy, and then you say create a copy, and then you either move it to the end or you can move it before after this, shit like that. We did this in CIS 1100, and then you click OK, and you have another copy right there. Okay. Another way that you can do it is you bring the mouse pointer into the one that you want to make a copy, hold the control key, and then you press your left mouse button, and then you drag. And then if you drag it, you can drop it wherever you want, and you have another copy. So now I have 3 copies. Why do I need to do this? Because I need to show how I'm getting at my answer. Some of you just came up here and they dumped values here. And if you did that, you did not get full credit. Some of you came in here and you copied some values and the values are not even correct. So it's a little bit disheartening when I go through something in the class and then you're given an assignment and then you can't do it right. Okay? So remember, this is for your own benefit. If you understand this concept, you're going to be competitive out there. Okay, so let's do this. The first time, so the first part is asking us to find what? The totals. And I say there are very many ways that you can do this. I think somebody was telling me there's only one way you can do this. So many ways that you can do this. And I said one of the easiest way to do this is through what we are calling a pivot table. We did that in CIS 1100. And if you're not in my class, if you're in any other class, you should have gone through that. Remember, when you are given a book in a class, the reason why we give you a book and a syllabus is because more often than not, we don't cover everything in the book. The teachers will give you 1/3. The other 2/3 is your responsibility. So if you have the book and you have the syllabus, read the book from cover to cover. Because if you're not reading that book, somebody at Duke is reading that book. Somebody at State is reading that book. And when they put a job advertisement there, you're going to be competing with those people from those schools. So if they know what is in the book and you don't know what is in the book, you're giving yourself a disadvantage. And the same thing is opposite. If you read what is in the book, you get the concept. They don't read. When you go for the job interview, you will get the job. Okay, hopefully. So one thing that we want to do is we said we are using the organization to help us to find which company was making the donation. So this is what you're calling data. These are the raw values. From here, you can make an informed decision. So for us to make an informed decision, we need to process this data. And by processing this data, we'll be able to get information, and then from there, we'll get some knowledge. So let's see how we can get some information from here. So we are supposed to find out the total for each organization. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you put all the organizations together. In the old days, what you'll do is you look here, diabetic, you say that is 1, then you go down here, look for another diabetic, that is 2, and then you get that value, you add them down in a piece of paper, blah, 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 like that. But you can simply do this through what you're calling sort. So you want to organize all this information so that all the organizations are together. So from here, you'll select the organization, and then you come into this button over here, and you just click on sort, and you can do from A to Z, and boom, that's the first thing that you've done. Okay, so actually that's not right. Okay, so if you're going to be using, I'm sorry, if you're going to be using pivot table, you don't need to do the sorting. Actually, with the pivot table, you don't need to do the sorting. So let's do the first one, the pivot table, and then we'll do another one with another technique that requires you to do the sorting. So with the pivot table, you just make sure that you click anywhere inside your data. Okay, so this is your data right here with the headings. Click somewhere inside here, and then you click on insert, and you go to pivot table right there. And by default, the system will highlight all your values in your data. Okay, in your table, all the data is highlighted. So this chart here, this pop-up window here, shows you that you have selected that table, and then what you have to specify is where do you want your data to be. So your table is going to be, you can do it on a new worksheet, so that's going to take you to another worksheet, but I want it to be right here for me. So what you do is you click on the existing worksheet right there, and then you specify the location by clicking here, and then bring the mouse pointer right there. You're saying you want your pivot table to be here. Now pivot table is nothing else but is a summary of the table of the data that you have. Okay, so you have that. That's where the table is going to start. You click OK right there, and then if you remember from CS 1100, you have the pivot table fields right here. Okay, so we're interested in the organization. We have the fields here for the rows, then you have the columns, and on like that. So bring the mouse pointer to the organization, click and hold, and then you drag it down there. And you can see now we already have what? All the organizations. Okay, now we want to get the value. We want to get the value of these organizations. Okay, the values of these organizations. So you come in here and you have the amount, click on the amount and drop it in the values. And you got that. So this is giving you the total for each organization. And from here, okay, you can see which organization gave you most of the money. Now, if you want to sort, you can actually come in here and you can sort those values. They can be able to see which one is bigger. But you're not supposed to be doing that. Okay. So, but just by looking here, you can very clearly see that Make-A-Wish Foundation is the one that we raise most of the money from, followed by what? The Cancer Society. And the least amount of money came from what? Animal shelter. Now, here you have data. This is all your data. Now here you have some information. Now with this, you can make some decisions, because if you want to do some marketing campaign, you'll know maybe I need to find out why is it that we got very little from animal shelter. Okay. Now you're starting to make some informed decision based on the information that you have. Now, if you have data like this for maybe 5 or 3 years, and then you keep finding that cancer society is the animal shelter is giving you the least amount of money, now you might have to go back and look and see why exactly is that happening. And from there, you can be able to generate some knowledge, okay? And then you can make decisions moving on and on like that. Is that clear?
Yes.
So that's one way that you could have done that. So this is giving you the total. So all what you need to do is you copy these values, copy, and then you come to your answer sheet, click, and then you just paste and make sure that you're pasting the values, okay? And you're done. So that part is done. Now, you could also have come back to your worksheet right here. And because this is for what? So this is for the grand total. The other one is asking first for the average. You could have come down here to the other worksheet here, do the same thing. You do insert, pivot table, same concept, and existing worksheet. You want it to be from there, and then you click OK. You have organization over there, and then you have the amount right there. Now, this is the total. We are not interested in total, we are interested in the average. So you click on the arrow pointing down, and then you come to value statistics, and you select average, and you click OK. And that gives you the average values. And then what you do is you copy this value, and you go to your worksheet, boom, and you're done. That is all what I was asking you to do. Are we together?
Yes.
And you leave it like that, because I said I want to see how you're getting your answers. So that's one of the way that you could have done that. Okay. The other part, you come in here and you can use the subtotal. So with the subtotal, you have to sort the data first. So you're going to be using organization as your what? As your variable. So you click there, and then you can go to sort, and you have now all the values sorted by organization. So you have all of them together. Now, I saw some of you do the sorting, and then they came up here, and then they were doing equals to, and then you do some, and then you add this value, then you come down here, then you say equals to, then you do some. But if you have 10,000 items, that's going to take you a long time, which is very easy to have. Because if you think of a store, think of Walmart, think of Harris Teeter, they have so many items in the store. So if you're trying to find out the sales per day, that's a lot of data. Okay, so if you're using that manual process, it becomes difficult. So this is what we're talking about: management information system. A computer. You have computer right here. You have procedures. You have people. That is you're using this to help you manage your organization. Okay, so that's how you can use Excel, which is a tool to help you manage your organization. So once you've done that, then you want to go to data. Okay, go to data, and you find this under the subtotal. So you click on the subtotal, and you have this pop-up window. Okay, so this pop-up window saying at each change in what you select organize, because what you want to do is you want find all the values for the organization, and then you add them, and then all the ones for the animal shelter, and you add them. So that's what you're saying at each change in what? In the organization. You have to remember to change that. At each change in organization, I want you to get what? The sum. So the computer is going to look at the organization and look at this. Amnesty International 200, still there, add that, still there, add that, still there, add that, give you stuff for that, and then once it changes that, it starts a new iteration, and then you add all the way down like that. So at each change in using the sum, you can also come back and use the average. You will see that. So add subtotal. Okay, you're adding subtotal of what? So the amount. Okay, so you have to remember the subtotal are coming from the amount. Sometimes we have like sales, we have profit, we have coupons or something like that. So there can be other variables that you're using, but in this case, you're using what? The amount. Okay, amount, and then you don't need that. So just make sure that you have amount, and then you can leave this one. Most of the time, just leave these ones the way they are, and then you click OK. So at each engine organization, get me the sum of the amount. That's what you're saying, and then you click OK, and the system will create subtotals for you like that. If you want to see everything like that, you can just double click. So you see what's happening. All the international, they are right there. Amnesty International, and then all the animal shelter, we have the values there. Okay, so if you minimize that, it gives you the values like that. That's the same thing that we had from the previous worksheet. Okay, If you want to go back, you can see for each, and then everything opens up. Tracking donations, like that. So subtotal, this time we did the sum. You can change this to what? To average. Okay, and you did okay, and it's going to give you the average. So this is the average for these values. And then you can do the same thing. You have the summary, and you have those values like that. Are we together? Are you there?
Yes.
Any questions?
No.
Okay, so it was not that hard. Now with this, we can make some decisions. Okay, so this is what you're calling data, from data to information, and from information, we can make decisions. So this is now moving us towards that. Okay, what you're calling knowledge. Okay, you have data, information, and then you have knowledge, and you have management information system helping you to do that. Okay, so this week's lecture, I think we can leave here. Don't save that. Let's see what we are working on in this week. Application window, I think we got that. Okay, so there's an assignment for blogging, and I hope by now you are familiar with what blogs are. And let me see what the assignment is all about. Now, I'm hoping at least that you're able to go through the course chapter, and at least you have an idea about what's going on for this week. Okay, so let me go through this assignment for this week, and then we'll briefly go through the course material. This is going to be an application window. Share that. Okay, you can see that. Okay, so this is the project, the assignment for this week, and says you have purchased a financial investment company, which is called the financial level, that caters to individuals and families. You would like to develop a few blogs for your customers, employees, and partners. Most of you say that you want to start a business. So this is an opportunity is giving you an example of that. So the goals for your customer blog are to gather honest feedback, provide a place for customers to interact, and help find new opportunities for your businesses. Now, there are very many people who are actually making a lot of money on the internet. They have blogs, they have YouTube channels, they have all that kind of stuff. So what I always say is make sure that anytime that you're in the internet, you're not helping somebody else make money at your expense. The goals for the employee blog are to gather knowledge, collect employment feedback, and offer a place where employees can post anonymous feedback for issues and concerns so you can manage your staff better. So we talk about the knowledge concept here. Okay, how do companies manage knowledge? So one, research the internet and find several customer blogs and employee blogs. That shouldn't be a problem to do. Okay, just go on the internet and you can go to different websites. You'll find a lot of information. Most of you are very tech savvy. Determine the top 3 blogs for customers and for employees, and critique the blogs for content, ease of use, and overall value. So what I'll expect you to do is determine the top 3 blogs for customers. So this is your own, okay? Is most unlikely that you'll have the same as somebody else. But if you do, that's fine, okay? But I'm hoping to see some variation, some variety. So you're going to determine 3 blogs. This can be customers of anywhere. They can be for Amazon, for Walmart, whatever. So determine 3 blogs for customers and for employees, and then critique the blogs for content. So content, what do you mean by content? It is what is it that they're talking about? What are the issues that they're talking about? Okay. And then ease of use. How easy is it for you to use this blog. If you are a customer or if you're an employee and you want to add in some content, how easy is it for you? Now, this is very similar to when you go to a website. Some websites are very easy to navigate. This week, we are talking about e-commerce, okay, which is nothing else but is the businesses that is done through the what? The internet. So some of the websites are very easy to navigate. If you want to search for something and you want to use Google, you type Google and boom, Google just gives you one small line, okay, nothing else. A small section where you enter your what? Your search key, your keywords, and then you hit submit. That is all Google gives you, okay? It's very, very easy. And that's why when you're looking for something on the internet, we actually say you're Googling it, okay? So we have actually turned looking for stuff on the internet into the concept of Googling. And they use that as a concept because they knew that if they make it so easy for people, it's going to be easy to use and they'll have a higher market share. Remember, Google is not the first search engine, okay? There were very many before and they have had very many after. But Google is the most what? Is the most commonly used because of that ease of access. It's very, very easy to find stuff using Google. When you go to their website, just like that. Sometimes when you go to Walmart and you're looking for stuff, you can get lost. Another website like that. So ease of use, and then the value. What is the value of that? To who? To the customers, to the what? To the employee. So what you might do is you can create a table and then you tell me this is blog number one, and then under one column you have content, you have ease of use, and then you have overall value. Okay. And then what you're going to do is design a prototype customer blog and a prototype employee blog for the financial level using Word, PowerPoint, or a tool of your choice. So it's just going to be very easy. Get some ideas from those blogs and then just design something. And you can use Microsoft Word. So all these should be in your Word document. That's the file that you're going to upload. You don't have to have something that is working. A prototype is just a sample. Okay, it's not fully functional. So you can tell me this is gonna it needs to have what, like a name of your blog. Okay, you can have a short description of who is targeted on that blog. Okay, and maybe the word limit. Are we together?
Yes.
Anybody home? Are we aware of what is expected of us for this week's assignments?
Yes.
Okay, so something really quick here. Let me share this with you so you can have some ideas about where you're going to be getting this information. And this is the, I think it's the Chrome tab, customer blogs. So remember what I said about ease of searching for stuff? When you go to Google, let me start from here. See that? Now it might not be very clear because my screen has some issues with colors, but this is Google website. That's all what you see, that blinker. Okay, and then you type what you want. So we're looking for what? Customer blogs. And then they give us all this information. Our 10 favorite customer service support blogs, 10 customer blogs you should read, and then having so that Huffington Post, or this is 2018, that might be a little bit older. Let's see, top 10 customer service blogs to follow. So let's just click on that and see what's going on. Okay, so it gives you some of the information. So this is what you're talking about. Okay, so hi Shep hyphen chief officer Shep rotation. He's a New York Times and Wall Street Journal. Blah 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 blah, and you can click there to go to the blog, and you can see what's going on. Okay, so this is examples of what you're talking about. Some of the blogs that you can read and then talk about. How is it easy to see? What are they talking about? And then you can design something of your choice. Okay, supportee. and on like that. Okay, so that is that. So remember that. So let's briefly go through this week's presentation. Any questions so far?
No.
No.
Okay. Okay, so have you looked through the course content for this week? Anybody who has gone through the book?
No, I haven't.
Somebody want to tell us what the book is, the chapter is all about? So that's not very positive, because we agreed that before you go to class, you have to at least have an idea about what's going to be covered in the class, because that's the only way that you can actually try to see whether you are following on what's going on. Okay, so in the future, please at least make sure you have an idea. Don't go to a class just blank. It's like excuse me, it's like going for a job interview when you have not fully researched the company, or at least you don't have a set of questions. Because if the best way for you to learn about concept is if you have, and I know you're doing a lot of things, so time might not be an issue, but if you're going to school, that should be a priority for you. Okay, so at least make sure you have an idea about what is in the class, so that when you're covering the material with your professors, at least you'll be able to know whether you're teaching yourself, because that's how you're going to be learning once you leave college. You're going to get a job, and there's going to be a lot of training, okay, what we call professional development, that you're going to be doing on your own, and most of that time you won't have somebody to cover the material for you. So the only way that you can know whether you're learning, you're understanding the material, is to start practicing now. Anyhow, so this chapter, like I said, you're not going to be able to cover everything, so I'll hit some of the key points. And the chapter, we're in chapter 3, I think. We're talking about e-business. Okay, so e-electronic. We are familiar with the business. So from old days, you remember the barter trade, where we used to, you give me a goat, I give you vegetables, okay, or seashells or something like that. That's the barter trade. And then we moved the monetary, where you get me a bread, I give you some money. Now we are moved to doing business where? On the internet. And we have cryptocurrencies and things like that. But e-business is whereby we are transacting businesses using the internet. So we have what you call disruptive technology, and this has been very much common in the IT. So when you think of Airbnb, technology did disrupt that, because in the old days, if you wanted a hotel, you can book the hotel on the internet, or you can go to the location and you say like Marriott or whatever, go to the location and then say I want to spend 2 nights here, 3 nights here, and they give you the hotel. But now with technology, you can have what you're calling Airbnb. Same thing with the what? Tax business. Actually, that's the most common one. In the old days, if you wanted to get a taxi, you had to go to the yellow book and then you look for the number and then you call them and then they come pick you up. Now you have what? An app. And that has completely changed what you call the tax hailing what? Business and concept. So that's part of what you're calling disruptive technology. So we have technology that comes in and then it changes how we do business. Disruption. It disrupts the what? The norm that we know in terms of business. And there are very many examples that you can give with that. Okay, when you think of Netflix and you think of Blockbuster, that's disruptive what? Technology. The four e-business models, you're going to be looking at that. Okay, you're already engaged in this. Most of you are buying things on the internet, you sell things on the internet, you go to eBay, you go to Amazon. Okay, we're doing all that. So we're going to be looking at those four e-business models, and then we have some of the tools that you can use for helping you to communicate on the internet. We're already using some of those tools. You have email. Okay, that's part of it. We're using this platform here, Blackboard. That's part of communication. But you can also use those other platforms to help you in what? Buying things and selling things on the internet. Okay, so we have what you're calling Web 1.0, and then we have what you're calling Web 2.0. And the main difference is that with the Web 1.0, if you think of the old days at the beginning of the 2000 there, maybe some of you are not even born then, but when the internet came about, okay, we used to have websites and we could sell things on the internet, but those websites were not interactive. They were only what? Text. You had some graphics, but those graphics were not animated. So in the Web 2, or what you call Web 2.0, we were able to add more content to the website. So you had the website, they have the pictures, but then they had more interaction between the users. Okay, so you could add videos, and then you could be able to add chat. You can go on the internet and you can chat with somebody. That's part of what you're calling Web 2.0. And now we have what you're calling Web 3.0, now where we're using artificial intelligence. You go to Amazon, you search for things, you don't buy something, you close, you come back tomorrow, you're trying to look for something else, and then you find that Amazon is already giving you some what? Some ideas, that it has some things that is suggesting, making some suggestions for you. That's based on what you're calling artificial intelligence, because they use what is called the data analytics. They look at your pattern and they look at what you're looking for on the internet, and then they try to relate those things, and then they give you some options. So we have Web 1.0, Web 2.0, and then Web 3.0. So now we are at the Web 3.0. So these are some of the concepts that you need to be familiar with. Is what you call the language of the subject. When you go for that job interview, they'll be asking you, you took this class, what is Web 2.0? Okay, tell me something about the internet. Okay, are we together?
Yes.
Are we
Yes.
making sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so some of the learning outcomes, compare disruptive and things like that. www. What does www stand for? Somebody?
World Wide Web.
I'm sorry?
World Wide Web.
Okay, very good. So they say here, explain how the internet and the www cause business disruption. What is the difference, or what is the similarity between the internet and the www? Are they the same? Are they different? Somebody. This is not the first time you're hearing the word internet. It's not the first time you're coming across www. So what is the difference between the internet and www, or the World Wide Web? Somebody?
Mm, the ones connected via internet can send and receive information, including text, graphics, voice, video, and software, whereas the www is just the address.
Okay, that's on the right part. That's like 50%. Somebody else?
I
Add
tried.
into that. Excuse me. Somebody else? Okay, so
Okay, so it says that www is just one part of the internet, and its primary use is to correlate and decimate information. The internet includes www, but other forms as well, such as email and things like that.
okay, that's good. A little bit disheartening because you've seen these things before, and at least you should have done a little bit of research if you didn't know what they were. So one of the ways that you can actually learn is if you're reading something and you don't understand it, Google it up. A lot of information is out there. But anyway, like, is that C.S. Chomba? Anyway, I'm sorry. So internet and www. Sometimes I have a problem with pronouncing the names, but internet is what you can call the infrastructure. Okay, the internet is like the infrastructure. If you think of the highway, okay, so we have Route 40. So the internet is like Route 40, and then www is one of those vehicles that you see traveling on that highway. Okay, so if you're on Route 40, you have all kinds of vehicles, sometimes even bicycles, motorbikes, all that. So the internet is the infrastructure, all those computers in the world that are connected together. Internet, international network. Okay, so it provides the infrastructure and it allows those other what you can call resources to be used on the internet. So www, which is World Wide Web, is one of the resources that can be used on the internet. You have email is another of the concept of the resource that you can use on the internet. Okay, so internet with a capital I is an international network. Okay, so all those computers in the different parts of the world together using telecommunication resources. So some of them, they use fiber optic cable, they use telnet, they use satellite, all that. That's how the communication is enabled. Okay, so that's something that you should at least be familiar with. And then here we have what you call in digital Darwinism. So we are familiar with the concept of what? Survival for the fittest. Okay, so some of the companies, if they don't reinvent themselves, they would. They do what? They disappear. Okay, Blockbuster. They did not see what was happening. Okay, Netflix came about, and with technology, they were able to do what? To move on. So we talked about the Porter's competitive model. So companies should always be looking at that because you have the threat of new entrants. You need to be able to know what is happening in the market. That's what is called market intelligence. You need to know what are your competitors doing. What do you think is they are going to be the new things that they'll be coming up with? So that way you are able to know what is happening. Okay, and that's how you make sure that you're not kicked out of the competition. Okay, so that's what you're calling digital Darwinism. So they give you an example here of Polaroid and how the company went bankrupt and on like that. Okay, so disruptive but sustained technology. Most of the disruptive technologies is a new way of doing things that initially does not meet the needs of the existing customers. Now remember, there are some companies will actually create a product that the customers don't know about. If you think now we have the iPhone and the smartphone and things like that, we never thought about that. Okay, companies came up with those products and then they made us believe that we need those things. And today, most of you cannot stay away from your phone for what? 2 to 5 minutes, right? And you can see how the technology has advanced. We have moved from, in the old days, you used to have the phones where you have an area you'll pull up, and then we have the flip phones. Now everything is what? Smart. And the phones actually are even more powerful. The phones that we're using today, he says that is actually more powerful than the computer that was used to send a man to the moon. So you can see how we have advanced. And most of the computers are, they have, you do everything now on your computer. Okay? So sustaining technology, you produce a product that customers are eager to buy because they already know the need for it, but usually it does not grow the business. So most of the businesses, they want to do what's called innovation, and then you're able to change what's happening in the market. So innovator's dilemma is a concept that will come around, and they talk about how established companies can take advantage of what? Disruptive technology. So most of the companies, sometimes they are hesitant to come up with a new product because they don't know whether that product is going to do what? Change what's happening with the companies. And that's why you see, like for Apple, they have for innovation. And what they usually try to do is what? Every, in the old days, it used to be like every 2 years, and then they moved to every 1 year. Now I think maybe almost 6 months, they come up with a new what? iPhone. Because that's how they are going to be able to sustain their clientele. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is a little bit about the internet, massive network, and these are things that you can probably read on your own. So we have one of the resources on the internet, what you're calling the World Wide Web. Okay, now I'll talk a little bit about this, and what I'll do is I'll share with you. Somebody give me a name of a company. Okay, so Amazon. So let's see what's going on with Amazon. And I'm going to share this blank screen here, new tab. So give me a minute. So we can see the concept of the internet, and share the screen. Is it the Chrome tab? Yeah. I think it's a new tab. It has nothing on it. So if you want to go to Amazon, you'll get a browser. Okay. So a browser is a tool that we use to help us access the internet. Okay. We have Chrome, Mozilla, Firefox, Safari, all the way down like that. So I'm using Chrome here, and I will usually type what? www.amazon.com. Now, sometimes you have to do the www. Are you able to see that?
No, we can only see the page. We can't see your bar. your search bar.
Why can't you say that? Okay, let me see whether it's going to populate that. Okay. So it's very similar to when you look at up here. So we have Amazon. So basically what I did is I typed www.amazon.com. So that's what we call a domain name. Every website has a name, okay? And what is called a domain name. So once I type, most of the websites you have to put www.com, but some of the browsers are actually smart enough to know that when you type Amazon.com, you're talking about the www.amazon.com. So we have this website here for Amazon. So what we are looking at is a website, but there is actually a language that is used to develop what? This software, to develop this website. And that's what you're calling the HTML, which is Hypertext Markup Language. So Hypertext Markup Language is a language that is made up of interconnected links. So that's why if you bring your mouse pointer here, you can click here, and then if you click here, you move to another page. Okay, that's the concept of what you're calling the hypertext. Okay, if you bring your your mouse pointer there, you click, you move to another page, and then you can see what is happening is on your web page, you see more changes. You see more changes in terms of the information. I don't know why it doesn't show you the page up here. Only shows you Amazon. But anyway, so let me see if I can show you this language and how it looks like. Open. New window. And ccu.edu. Okay, so I'm going to share something which is much easier. And let's see whether we can use the central web page. So bear with me. Okay, so that's our home page. Same thing. You have nccu.edu. So that's the domain name. And then we have different types of domains. So .edu, the last three letters. Most of the websites will have the last three letters. That shows us the type of organization this is. For educational, we have the edu. For business, we have .com. For government, we have .gov. For non-profit organization, we have NGO. For military, we have MIL, and on and on and on like that. So if you want to see the language that is used to develop this website, what you can do is you can right click anywhere around the page, and then you see view the page source. And then when you click on view the page source, you'll see, oh, it opened another page instead of opening the same page. So I got to share with you. So what I did is you right click and then you go to view the source. And then what you'll be able to see is view the source. You see that? You see that stuff over there?
Yes.
So this is what is called the HTML. And if you look up here, if you look somewhere over here, you'll be able to see HTML, the font. This is HTML, that's the language, hypertext markup language. Okay, and then this stuff over here, it shows you the language you're using is English. So if this website was in Chinese, they'll have acronym here for Chinese. If it was in French, they'll have acronym here for French. And then this information here, they represent what you're saying. You see down here, we have reference nccu.edu, and then we have for more than a century, North Carolina Central has prepared students. So if you go to the website, you'll actually be able to see this information somewhere. And then we have images, we have title, we have all the way. So this is when somebody talks about programming and writing a web page, this is what they do. Now, in the old days, you had to write all this. you had to know what to do this. Now we have computer programs that can help you to do that, generate most of this for you. But this is the language. This is what's called behind the scenes. So this is what is used to generate this website. So you as the customer, you're looking at the front end, and that is what you're able to see. You're able to see this beautiful web page here with all that information, okay? But then you can see the back end. So that's what you call the HTML, the hypertext markup language. Now, the internet allows us to be able to see, this is what you're calling the web page, and you can see now we have a picture like that. That was not possible in the web 1.0, okay? Now we have interacting. We can be able to interact with the web page, okay? You have more resources. You can go in here, you can get more information, you can blog, you can do all those kind of things. So that's part of what you're calling the HTML. Now, there is a computer that has this web page. So basically what you're doing is when you go to the nccu.edu, there is actually a computer that you're accessing. So the communication is enabled by you go to your browser, you type www.nccu.edu, your browser takes those words and then it sends that to another computer. That's called the DNS, domain name server. Domain name server, DNS. You'll see that in your notes. And that is like a registrar. There's a, remember that yellow book that you used to use in the old days when you're trying to look somebody's phone number? What is it called? The yellow book. So the DNS is like a yellow book, and it has the list of all the websites in the world. Okay, and then it's able to find the website that corresponds with nccu.edu, and if that's legitimate, then your browser will communicate with that computer, and then you're able to receive that information. So that's how the communication is done. Now, some of the websites will have what is called the HTTP. The HTTP. Now, HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Hypertext Transfer Protocol. That is the language of the internet. Me and you, we are communicating using what? English. That's how we are able to, I hope I'm speaking English. That's how you're able to at least understand me. And when I ask you a question, you're able to respond to me because we're using that language. So HTTP is the language of the internet. It is the language that allows computers to be able to communicate. So when I have my browser and I type nccu.edu, that command is taken through the DNS. The DNS provides my computer with that information, and I'm able to see that website. The same thing, if you do cnn.com, same concept. So some of the websites will have what's called HTTPS. So that S is for security. Because of e-commerce, so we want to make sure that if we are on the internet, that the websites that we are accessing, they are secure. So that's the issue of security. Okay, so anytime that you go to the website and you're buying something, they always tell you if you type HTTPS and you see the website does not have an S, you should be very careful when you're putting your confidential information there. Sometimes you'll see something that looks like a padlock or a lock. So let's see if we go to maybe www.target. And usually when you type most of this website, they might not even give you the excuse me, the HTTP part of it. Okay, but when it comes time for you to buy stuff, so let's say we want to get that and we want to put it in the shopping cart. So this is the same concept that you do when you shopping around. You get your stuff and then you put them in the shopping cart. So the concept is based on the what's called the brick and mortar concept. And then when it comes time for you to pay, you want to make sure that you see that lock over here. If you go to a, I don't know why it's not showing you that. That's a little bit interesting. Can you see the lock on the Target website? Why is it not showing you that? But anytime that you look at the URL, this is called the URL, the Uniform Resource Locator, the full address. The full address is what you call the Uniform Resource Locator. So the Uniform Resource Locator should have a padlock at the behind it, and that means that that website is secure. Sometimes that padlock is going to be at the bottom. Sometimes it's at the bottom somewhere over here. That means that that website is secure, and hopefully when you provide your information, it's not going to be compromised. Are we together?
Yes.
Okay, so we have looked at what we are calling. Let's go back to the screen and see what we covered. So blog is another of the resources that you can use on the internet. This application window, and we're using that. Okay, so we talked about the web browser, and then we have the hypertext transport or transfer protocol. So that is the language of the internet. Then you have the URL, the Uniform Resource Locator. That is the full address. So www.nccu.edu. Sometimes you can use the HTTP / all the way like that, okay, to specify the Uniform Resource Locator. Okay, so these are some of the reasons why the website, the internet has grown. And we have maybe 5 more minutes. Should not be doing too much. So there's what is called the microcomputer revolution. So the PC came around 1980. Okay, the personal computer from IBM, and then Microsoft also helped to popularize the computer through the development of the software. So Windows helped in the development of the computer. Then there is the Dell computer. They came up with the processor, so that also helped. So from 1980 is when we actually had what's called the personal computer. In the old days, we used to have computers that were in big organizations, big offices, and things like that. But from the 1980, 85 around there, people were able to buy computers. They were still very expensive, but that's what's called the microcomputer revolution. Okay, and then the networking, the internet came around, and then with that, people were able to connect the internet. Although we still have what's called the digital divide. If you look at most of the minority communities, we don't have access to internet compared with predominantly European American neighborhoods. So right there, we have some things that we need to work on. Easy browser software is very easy to access the internet now with the browsers. Then you have the speed, dial-up. You need to be familiar with what's dial-up. In the old days, you used to have what's called a modem, modular demodulator, and the speed was very low. Now we are getting almost 1 gig, okay, even on your phones. And then web pages is to do what, to create and they're very flexible. It's very easy. You can actually even create your own website nowadays. You don't need a lot of technical knowledge to be able to create a website. So these are some of the reasons which have helped the growth of the internet, which is the most common resource that we use on the internet, www. So we talk about that e-commerce. You can do that, buying and selling on the internet, and e-business advantages, global reach, opening new markets, reducing the cost, improving effectiveness. So I'll just talk about reducing cost. If you think of Amazon, when they started, they were doing it in the garage, and then they opened all these different stores. Amazon, very easily, they can have a stock of almost what, 1 million books or even 1 billion books. If you look at a company like Barnes and Nobles, if they have what's called a brick and mortar allocation, they can do that because there is limit. They are limited by the space and the capacity of what they can store. But on the internet, you can have a lot of resources. Also, in terms of reducing the cost, most of the customers actually do the business for the organization. When you go on the internet, you're doing the shopping, you're doing everything for you. If you go to a brick and mortar, you need somebody to open the door, you need somebody to close in the evening, you need somebody to check you out, and all the way like that. So that leads to what? More cost. Internet impact on information, easy to compile, increased richness, reach. So improved content, you can actually be able to present more information on the internet. That's what you mean by improved content. And then you have what? Richness. There is more information. You just go on the internet and you look at a product, you're actually able to review it. Okay, people can read comments there. If you go to a Walmart and you want to buy a dress, there's no comments next to that dress. But on the internet, you can get all that. Okay, so people like something, they comment on it. If they don't like it, they comment on it. So you have more increase what you're calling more richness. And then the rich, you can buy things from when you're on top of a tree. Are we together?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so mass customization, we're familiar with that, and personalization. Most of you have iPhones, and when you look at your iPhone, the screen is the same, but you're actually able to use to scroll with your finger and all the way like that. So that's part of what you're calling mass customization. It doesn't matter the size of your big finger, you're still able to do what? Do a little bit of scrolling here and there because it's what you're calling standardized. We can also do what's called personalization. If you go on the internet, you can actually be able to do what? Get things for yourself. Okay. If the shoe size, you can go pick whichever you want, which color you want, all the way like that. Okay, so this is what you call the long tail, something you can do in, you can look, come across maybe sometimes in marketing. And basically what you're saying is in terms of popularity, if you have a brick and mortar, this is where you're going to be confined. Okay, so your products are going to be right over here because you're limited by the space that you have. If you're on the internet, you can have many, many items. And that means that you're still able to do what? To sell and create what? More profit. Okay, Amazon, they can have 1 billion books. Barnes and Noble, they can't because they're limited by what they can have in the store. Okay, so intermediary is a concept that you'll come across. And basically what you're saying is with the internet, it has helped in reducing this. So intermediary is where you have the middleman. We have tried to remove what you're calling the middleman. Now, if you want to buy a house, it's very easy. You just go on the internet and use what you're calling mashup, like Zero is one of the websites that you can use, or Red Finance. You go into Zero, you type the address, they give you the house, the different houses in that neighborhood, and then you can even click on one particular house and you see the price of the house, see what has changed. You can go look at the schools in that neighborhood and on like that. So in the old days, you had to go to a real estate agent and they had to collect all that information. So they'll give you a booklet and blah, blah, blah. So with the internet, we have reduced that. Okay, and hopefully when we do that, you can see we are lowering what? The cost. Because once you take the middleman out, that means there is lower cost. Same thing if you're buying a car. Okay, you can go on the internet, CarMax, and then you're able to find more information about that car. Okay, and if you buy it on the internet, you don't need a salesman, so you're not paying that salesman. Hopefully you'll be able to pay less. Okay, so that is that heat map. So companies actually use the heat map. If you go on the internet and you Google heat map, you'll be able to see how companies are tracking employees in the store. And that's another way in which you can actually use that knowledge to help you in making decisions. So let's see what we can share here really quick before we finish. We should be ending in a few minutes. Share an application, Google Chrome, Amazon. Okay, so we have that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Google. So you have that. And just type heat maps. Heat maps. So this is used a lot in retail. And no, I'm going to use of heat maps. And basically what this is the stores have installed cameras that track employees as they walk through the store. Okay, and from there they are able to see the most traveled routes. So from there I can go to maybe images, and then that will show you. So if you have like a store, you'll be able to see how they are using it. So let's say use of heat maps in retail. So this is how you learn a little bit more about stuff. When you're doing something and you're not sure what it is, just Google it up and you'll be able to get more information. Okay, and based on all these images, you can see. So they have cameras, and those cameras will track the employees, the customers as you walk around the store. And then based on the feedback, they're able to know where customers spend most of the time, where customers spending most of the time, which routes are they traveling a lot. Like you can see in this picture, nobody's coming in this region here, nobody's coming to this region. This is where most of the customers are spending most of the time. So if you are the store manager and you're trying to sell store space, you can actually use this to tell the prospective clients, this is our most traveled route. So if you want to display your merchandise, this is where you want to place them. And also from here, you'll be able to know how you can be able to track. So if you find that customers are coming in here and they're buying stuff here, most of the stuff from here, and then they leave, what you can do is you can separate those items. So put some of the items from here and maybe put them around here. And hopefully by the time the customers are moving from this region looking for those items, then they'll pick something in between there. So that's why you're looking at your data, and then you look at the information, and then from there you're able to make what? An informed decision. And I think we are going to stop there unless there is any question. Are you there?
Yes. No question.
Yeah.
Yes.
You got a question? Go ahead.
No, I said no question.
Okay, so I'm going to stop recording this. And if